what a day is correct. So I'm just going to start us off with just a little bit of music.
Yay.
That's what we all need. That's right. And so I tell you what, every time it brings up, don't let fear be in control. It's the weirdest thing on my
It
life.
does.
Yeah. Isn't
Well,
that,
that works today too. I wonder why it does that though. That's odd.
isn't that funny?
Mhm.
Um, you guys know this song. Don't worry about a thing, 'cause every little thing gonna be alright. Don't worry about a thing, 'cause every little thing gonna be alright.
I love it. I love it.
We needed a little bit of that.
We did. Absolutely. I yeah, I think, today's conversation is going to be good for both of us and whomever is with us. I can't see who's with us right now. Struggling a little there.
Oh, it's been a week. It's been a little bit of, yeah, it's been a lot. So, one of the things that we were talking about right before we jumped on was we were going to do the second part of are you wasting your time on worrying? And then
Right.
as we started talking, we started to realize there were other things going on in our worlds that we tend to. It's so funny. Joe, I think that when we have topics that come off the week of, right? When you and I talk about what's going on in our lives, they tend to overlap a lot with what's going on
Mhm.
in everyone else's lives.
Yeah,
So we decided that we're going to fold a lot of that in. And the concept of worry comes up with all of them, right?
it does. It absolutely does. And, I tell you, what's so synchronistic about the way this conversation is going to roll today is that as I was in the shower, I was thinking, oh, shoot, I didn't tell Kelsey I was getting in the shower. I am going to be, a little bit tardier than normal tardiness. And I really just want to have a conversation today about life. And the worry piece comes in, the idea that, um, our subconscious can quickly take over comes in, and then all these things. And then I sit down with Kelsey, with you this morning, and you're like, so Joe, I get the sense that we just need to have a conversation about something different today. So I will tell you, when you are connected to somebody energetically and spend time with them and make space for them, that happens, that you just know what the other person needs without them even having to tell you. And that's a beautiful thing about staying in the present moment.
And I want to add to that because normally if you're late, what does that even mean, right? Time, I'm realizing, is it's this anyway. That's a whole nother story. So when we get ready to do these and I'm like, I don't know, I'm thinking to myself, well, what exactly are we, are we all ready for this or whatever? Um and I worry, and it actually makes my experience worse, right? Like, worrying about anything. And it's so funny because if you allow yourself to be connected to someone and allow that and be in the present moment, like you just said, like this time when I came on, I was not concerned. I had no worry. I knew there was something that we needed to talk about, and I wanted to have a conversation, and because I think I was connected to you and I allowed that space to be there and happen, and just it made my life a little better and easier. I wasn't worrying. So I don't know, that's kind of a cool little side effect.
It is, isn't it? I have to tell you, I was worrying in the shower, and I was like, okay, stop. Last week we chatted a little bit about what to do when we get to that point of worry, worry, worry. We're future thinking, our heads are just spinning. And the first thing you have to do is stop. And I said it out loud in the shower. I'm like, stop it, Joe, just stop. Everything in your brain right now has no truth to it. Just stop. It's fine. And I was able to take a few breaths after that and, reconnect back. And it was probably at that point in time that you're like, yeah, I think I feel Joe.
Probably, probably. I was like, I had this sense of, I'm not sure we're going to talk. It was like, I'm not sure we're going to talk about what we had talked about talking about because we might need something different.
Yes.
So let's just dive in. Let's just dive in. One of the things that's happened to both of us recently, and I want to make sure you please interject as necessary. So we've talked about subconscious versus conscious, and consciously we understand, things that we've worked on and things that we've healed through, and then we have understanding of them, and we know coping mechanisms that didn't work and we've changed them. And I say we, like as a collective, like all of us have been doing work on ourselves since we started doing work on ourselves. So we all have that conscious stuff, but like this fucking subconscious stuff, it creeps back in.
So
And
tricky.
it's so tricky.
Yep.
And I think one of the things that I'm learning, and that it sounds like this happened to you, is that when the subconscious things come back up and you kind of reach a new level of healing with something,
Yep.
and it's in those moments that you get sideswiped by old coping mechanisms and old things come up. Then, this is what the topic was that we were going to talk about. The worry sets in because I worry about the old coping mechanisms coming up. And I'm like, did I just revert back to, did I just fall for 10 rungs on the ladder? Like, did everything I've worked on, did it just get thrown out the window?
Yeah.
And that's what happens when a subconscious thing comes up that I'm healing, even though it's at a deeper level. And that's something I've had to understand. But it's the same kind of thing that I thought I had healed, right? But it comes back up, and then I worry about the things that come with it.
Yes, absolutely. And, it's the more what I've learned and, I'll throw it out there. I really work hard and it's very natural for me anymore because of all the hard work I've done to be conscious, have conscious thought, take mindful action in the present moment. That's my thing, right? That's really what little hashtag now is about: conscious thought, mindful action in the present moment. So I really am proud of myself that I'm able to live inside of that space. And when the subconscious shit comes back, I can catch it pretty quickly, but it can still take me down. And what I've learned is that it is trying to protect me, but it's false protection. Like it's trying to protect me from the thing that triggered me. And it wants me to do its old habit because that was familiar and it made me feel better then, right? Feel better then. And for me, that would be turning to some sort of food that doesn't serve my body well, that my digestive tract can't
I do
handle,
that too.
right? Emotional eating, stress eating. And I caught it immediately because I've been so good in the last couple of weeks. And I feel so dialed in. I figured out some really deep things that were connected to my ability to stand in all of my power. And it's been awesome. Like I've never felt this way. And that's good. And then all of a sudden that one little trigger, and I was like, wait a minute, I'm going to go eat that thing. And the subconscious is like, yeah, go eat it. It'd be great. Let's protect you from that trigger. Whee! And all of a sudden I'm like, well, wait a minute, fuck off. Whoops. I don't really need you to protect me anymore.
We're both dropping F-bombs today. It's going good.
So and to catch that more quickly now is the point. But it's still, the worry comes in, the idea, like you just mentioned, am I reverting back? Holy crap, what am I doing to myself? Like
Right.
all that. And then the judge comes in and the judge is like, yeah, you suck because you did that. And the victim's like, I know I suck. And it starts the whole cycle over. The idea would be And what I've figured out is that I can catch it really quick. But I
That's
have
the key.
it is.
Don't let that slide. That is
Yeah.
110% the key. There's someone that I started following because I some of her teachings I'm like, but there's a lot of great things within it, and it's Esther Hicks and with
Oh yeah.
Abraham Hicks and channeling Abraham Hicks, and the reason I like her is because there's a lot of very practical things, and what you just said is when you catch it early, it's much easier. She talks about this car that's on a big hill, right? And if it goes down, you think you're going to stop that car if it gets to the very bottom of the hill? No. But if it just starts to creep at the very top, and you had released the brake and it's in neutral, if you stop it at the top, it's much easier to stop than if it gains too much momentum.
Mhm.
And so, us paying attention to what's gaining momentum helps us understand when we need to go, let's stop. And the more momentum something has gained, that makes it even more difficult to stop. So, one of the things that you said is this idea when you catch it, if you catch it early, it's easier to stop it. And it's something now that is something new that I'm working on because
Yeah.
it's even me recognizing going back into an old habit that used to be the thing I was working on. And now I'm working on, I can catch it. Or now I can see it. I'm aware. Now I'm learning now what to do, which is to hopefully say quit. As Charlotte said, the
Yep.
word quit works for you or something like that. Because if you do it early, way easier.
Way easier. There is the brain. Gosh, the brain is an amazing thing. And what I love that I've learned is that the brain doesn't know the difference between reality and a story. And so when we get re-triggered and the brain, it's why we need to stay conscious, because the subconscious will creep in and the brain doesn't know the difference between the story and the reality. But what I realized just now when you brought up the car, because I just had a dream 3 nights ago about a car racing backwards. And I was in the back seat. And this person that was driving was someone that had been part of my past that I recently saw again last weekend at a wedding. And I don't know why she was the one driving the car, but it was speeding backwards and she wasn't even looking. We were running over things and people and kids and animals. It was ridiculous, this dream. And I'm like, I remember saying, can we just stop the car before we go into the water? Like, stop the car before we go into the water. And the brain is telling me, it's warning me. I think it was a warning that it was, hey, you're not going backwards. You have the ability to stop. You don't have to allow the madness to happen. And I just had another dream that just came in this morning when you said that was around money, and that the all of a sudden all my money was gone, like all of it gone. And yeah, and so it's really interesting when the trigger comes in and the subconscious habit wants to creep in, what else the brain aligns that back to. So now I need to go journal about those things that feel very related and make sure I'm solid in knowing that I don't have anything to worry about.
Right. I have so many
That's a
thoughts
lot.
about. I have this. Is, we have so just so everybody knows. I mean, Joe and I, we've been uncovering a lot of boxes in our lives. Um, I have been unpacking a lot this week, and I've been doing it through while anchoring, as we talk about. And the way that I've been doing this is I've been finishing a big home project. I'm installing base trim, right? And if anyone's ever done that, it's a whole lot of like you're cutting a whole lot and coping the corners and just
When
it's
Kelsey says she's installing, she means that she's doing all of the cutting and
like
the work and the installation.
every single piece of trim in my home I have put in, cut, used a nail gun, all the things. And so, and it's been a process because I've been wanting to reclaim my space, and it's a fun thing to it's now my more of my home, which is fantastic, and it's really mine. I know every corner, legit, and they're not all straight, which makes it really difficult to cut some of the corners. So when I was doing this, I had more things kind of come up, and I feel really blessed to have the time to do this week. And Joe told me, let it flow. She said, let it flow. So one of the things that you're bringing up with worrying, and the reason I'm bringing all this up is because I let it flow. And I had some past things from my childhood come up, and I've been working through it, which has been really great. And I let it kind of flow. And as I did that, the worry actually went away. So when we worry, we have to also, it's good for me to remember that it's a resistance piece. And so that's what was happening while we were talking. And I'm doing all this stuff, and I'm anchoring, and I'm, owning my home and just creating more of my space as I write my second album. And then when she said let it flow, it wasn't until I let it flow and then I started crying like on my own as I'm cutting. I was literally trimming a piece of thing, and I just go, "Ah!" And I just started crying. And then I realized, I was like, my neighbors might think that I cut my hands off, and I didn't. Everything was fine.
Okay, I'm gonna pause you there, because the let it flow, the importance of that, Kels, is that letting the emotions flow instead of constricting them, instead of shoving them in the boxes that you and I have been, and so many people compartmentalizing are so good at. When we let them flow, we can let them go. I mean, it sounds a little poetic, but it's true. When you let the emotions flow, no matter when they come,
right?
Well, I mean, there's a couple times when maybe you have to shove them over for a couple days or an hour, but it helps to let them go. And that was what's so beautiful about what you did. I'm glad you didn't cut your hand off.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. So it's just this, it's this whole idea about worrying, right? It really gets you nowhere. It gets you nowhere.
Right.
And you don't even get to feel, you don't get to solve, you don't get to work on things. But damn it, it's really hard not to worry.
Well, worry begets worry, right? Worry begets worry. It just creates more worry.
Exactly. What's up, Carl? Oh, yes. To be, yeah. Oh, that was so great to meet you as well.
That's so, I mean, really.
Be bold, be curious, and be you. It's so true. And sometimes us being bold is this idea of even what we're talking about today. So a lot of what we talk about is all these emotional stuff that we all deal with. And I write songs in order to help myself understand what's going on in my head, in my heart, and in my soul. And it wasn't until I started sharing that I realized that I'm still trying to understand it fully. We all have these things, all have the same stuff. We are more one than we realize. And for some reason, the way it comes out of me is through song. And so us talking and having these weekly conversations is a way that I can bring some of that music. But more importantly, we all get to discuss this flow. And we all have it. And we all release it in different ways. For Joe, it's writing, right?
Yeah. Yep. It's writing. And I love to write, and I've been reminded that I need to put pen to paper. And when I do, it is a very gratifying activity. And I don't think when I write, I just let it flow. I just write. I call it free writing. It's called free writing. I'll something will come up and I'll just write. And, I love, Mary Beth had said she's letting go of a lot of things and letting things flow lately. And it's hard, but so satisfying. It can be really hard. And, we've learned that it's so many good things come when it's hard.
Oh, they do. And there's another thing that I challenge everyone with, because as I do it, so because of how I grew up in my coping mechanisms, I tend to, when I'm working on things, I tend to get really quiet and I pull inward. And that's okay to some extent. But then eventually, like Carl said, you have to share. And when you share, actually, in fact, it's something I'm uncovering is this idea of sharing. And this is what Joe and I do with each other quite a bit. And it becomes this really cool thing we get to share with you. We legit just jump on here once a week and we share. And for some reason, that's helping others. And all we're doing is just talking about the shit that's going on in our lives a lot of times. And
Exactly.
now here's the thing. When you guys share back, that's helping us as well. And everyone here is a community. So this idea of when we're healing and we're going through things, and Carl brought up this idea of sharing. And this is what I think of as a musician. I share my songs, right? I share my stories. It is so much more powerful than we even realize, because as you share things that you uncover and find to be true, you have no idea the help that it could offer to someone else. And it's something I'm learning more and more and more.
Yeah.
It's not just, I'm going to open this box in front of you.
Yeah.
Check it out. It's nothing like that. It's simply sharing your authentic truth, and being genuine and open is the
Vulnerable.
most powerful thing you
Yeah.
could possibly do.
Yeah. It's so what I love that Carl brought that up and that his voice to text picked 2018 instead of 2021 is so interesting because I started with my I call it my awakening, my spiritual awakening, and my connecting back to my soul and really wanting to solve for the subconscious habits that I was living inside of. In 2018, I called my own adventure and journey Project Happiness. And my son played lacrosse. We went to Germany for a trip, and I started to share in that season, June of 2018, with the moms and the women that we were traveling with, people I'd never met before. This was a random Team USA,
Yeah.
whatever. And I created this. This was a picture I had taken, and I created this. And it says, when you trust yourself enough to share the raw and vulnerable thoughts of the journey of your own awakening, you can have an amazing ripple effect on those you touch. Be raw, be vulnerable, and watch the magic unfold.
I love that.
And that was from 2018. And then he brings up sharing. And yeah, just it is, this is why we're doing what we do.
Exactly. Exactly. Oh, there's so many thoughts that are going through my head right now, and I love this so much. There was a podcast I was listening to, and I cannot remember the name of the author they were discussing this with. So I apologize. She talked about this idea of being really kind, right? Like we're told when we grow up, we're raised to be kind, right? It wasn't until she asked this question to herself. She said she started to question: is the kindest person in the room the person who, hold on, how do I get this correct? Is the kindest, is someone who doesn't authentically share their truth. Are they truly the kindest person in the room? She was relating this idea of being kind, right? With this idea of if she's really authentically true, then she might hurt some feelings because things might come up that she's not very happy with or whatever, right? And so she was bringing this up and comparing it to this idea of being kind. And then she related this idea of being authentically true, right? And being genuine and all these things as actually being the most kind thing you could do. It is
Yes.
actually the most kind thing, not only for yourself, but everyone around you,
Right.
In
Right.
fact, and then she went on further to say that people who don't share their authentic truth, okay, are actually kind of dangerous compared to people who are trying to be their authentic true selves. They are the kindest people because they're just doing their absolute best are authentic and real and genuine, right? And this idea
Where do
of
you think that comes from?
where do I think what comes from?
The kind, and why, even if they're sharing some sort of truth that could not be
Oh,
seen, where do you think it
this
comes from?
is our favorite thing.
Ah, you're going there.
Because it's love is greater than fear.
Yes.
And when you interact with people who operate from a point of love, right, versus fear, you can feel it. It's different.
Yes.
The intention is different. Now, the action could be the same, right? I could say the same thing, right, to someone from the two standpoints. Like, I can't hang out tonight. Let's say I say, Joe, I can't hang out tonight. Joe would know in a heartbeat if it was because of fear or love. So let's say I am worried about some project and I'm not finished and I say I can't hang out tonight, right? Or if I don't know, I had a big weekend and I just really need to stay in. I can't hang out tonight. The actions could be the same, but where it comes from is different, right?
Absolutely.
This
That's
idea,
the intention behind it, right?
intention behind it.
Yeah. And
Intention behind it.
it can be driven by, the thing is, until someone is conscious to that, they may think they're being kind when in essence they don't have the self-awareness, right? And that's when it can be really hard to discern between someone's true intention and what we may see as something different, right? And so yeah, it's tricky. It's super tricky. But yeah, you said it, Kelsey. Love is always greater than
Love
fear.
is always greater than fear. And Carl, I absolutely love the discussion that you're bringing up. And I want to challenge you a bit because we might have different thoughts about this. I'm starting to learn that if someone cannot be authentically themselves and it's off, and I used to paint people, I had to at the time, this is my coping mechanism. It was either good or bad, right? Now I'm starting to believe there is no good or bad, there just is. And then the is doesn't work with me, right? This idea of if someone is obviously like not being authentic, there's some weird stuff coming from them, it really could be subconscious. They might not be doing it to try to hurt others. They might not be conscious that they are hurting others.
That's right.
And when I started to understand that, the way that I understood it was I had difficult conversations with some people, and I was for sure it was because they were trying to like knock someone else down, right? And I found out from one of them, it was simply they were insecure.
Mm-hmm.
They were so insecure that they would throw hurtful things out to other people. And when you kind of get down to that level, you're like, wow, like maybe it's not just, it is ego. I do agree. It's 100% ego that it's driven. But I think it's less conscious than we might think.
Well, yeah. So that, when you break down some of the simple yet not simple concepts about becoming more conscious, the subconscious is the ego. So when the ego needs to be fed, the subconscious will do its job. That's just the thing. The subconscious habits come from the ego and what the ego needs. But the conscious side is actually the soul and the higher self. And until, right, Rhodey, see, Rhodey agrees. And until there is an awareness and an understanding, it doesn't matter. The subconscious will be what rules that person, which ends up being ego driven. So Carl, you're on to something there. The hardest part is that a lot of people don't understand yet the difference between the ego, their limiting beliefs inside of that subconscious habit, versus the conscious higher self, soul driven you know, um, not ego.
Yeah, and there's nothing you can do. This is something I'm uncovering, and I want to know if it's true, actually, Joe. This is a question for you. And I think it is true, but I want to make sure.
I always
There
love it
is,
when you bomb these questions at me, right?
I know, but I'm telling you, I'm pretty sure it's true
Yeah.
based on what we've talked about. And I feel it to be true. Because it's the only thing that I can do, and it's the only thing in my life I can control. In my life, my number one purpose is to become my best self. Okay. That's how I feel. Now, I cannot change anyone. However, the best chance that I have of helping someone else reach a place where they can have a better connection with me is by becoming the best version of myself and sharing that best version of myself, because there's nothing I can do to change them, but I can change myself. And
I,
that is the fastest way for me to help them.
it's true. It's true. And
Okay.
when you show up authentically as yourself consistently, they will either adjust or be freaked out and run away, right? Because oftentimes, as we uncover our truth and ourselves, our soul reclaims space, right? And the ego starts to get smaller and the soul grows. They often won't understand if they're not in a place of being ready to do that themselves. The other piece to this is in that space as you create more self awareness for you to understand and get someone else's world is also a way to be kind. So when you see the other person and understand enough of what they've been through, where they, the stress in their lives, whatever it might be that drives their current action, if you can get their world, that will also help you maintain your own authenticity and be kind in those moments. And then all of our four agreements come into play, right? Don't take things personally. Don't make assumptions. Be impeccable with your word because you're getting their world. And oftentimes we don't take the time and create the space to get someone else's world. So, yes, you're right on. You're right
Right.
on.
Right. And we don't have to fully understand their world, but I like to have a little bit of hope that they will become their true self.
Yes,
And that
absolutely.
and I like to lead with hope and think that, I don't think they fully meant those words coming at me the way they did.
Right.
Or I don't think they mean to act like this, and I could even tell them how it's making me feel or what it's doing, but they might not be able to fully understand and comprehend or change. Not because they're stuck in their ways and don't want to. It's just hard to,
It is.
and I have a hard time sometimes of letting go of that and understanding it's not mine to work on.
It's so hard, Kelsey, isn't it? I mean, especially when you love someone and you see the light for them that they can't see, right? It can be really tough when you see the light for them that they can't see. And I mean, I have a relationship like that with, with my brother, and I see the light and he can't see it. And I will always hold hope that it's there, for him to explore
Right.
one day and to get his world, as best I can, as a way for me to then honor the boundaries that we both need from each other, so it can be really tough.
And back to that idea of worry, before you get to that place where you can hold space for someone and have hope that they'll see the light, I think we all go through large bouts of worry. I know I do.
Large bouts, yes. A
Like
kettle of them.
it's just,
Stir in the kettle.
yeah, just stir and then let's make it for 150 people. We're gonna have a big old stew. It just, and it, until eventually you're like, why am I stirring this pot? Like, this isn't even my pot.
Right.
This isn't mine to even, there's nothing I can do. except to, okay, can we breach the subject just a little bit? I know we're already running out of time. Here's the thing. This
Whose time?
idea,
Who
I
put a
don't,
time frame on us?
right? I don't
Who put
even
a
know.
time
No
frame on
one
us?
did. No one did. Okay, so here's the thing. As we as we understand that there's nothing we can do, right? Like, we're in this place where like, okay, like this is them, right? I'm holding space and hope that they'll see the light. And the better that I work on myself, the more I can be present if they do need me. And then also the idea that it's easy to set boundaries when you're really like good with yourself, right? And you understand what's yours and what's not yours to like change and affect. Now, when I got to that place with some people and in my life, and as I get there and I'm getting better and better and better at sitting in that place, my boundaries are not something I have to think about. I don't have to think I need to set this boundary. They're just there. And when they get crossed, I just bring it up quickly, right? When this happens, I started to get a little scared because I was wondering why I wasn't having stronger emotions about something.
Oh, yes.
Because I felt bad for some things for someone, right? They were going through something and I felt bad, but I didn't do my normal thing, which is I'd pick up all the little pieces for them and follow them around to try to help, right? Like, I'm like, oh, I'm so sorry those pieces fell. Because
Yep.
you think, yeah, and I had empathy, but I didn't have the same kind. I still had contentment. I
Yeah.
still was content. And it felt really weird. I was like, oh, did I lose my emotions? Can we talk about this idea?
Yes, absolutely. I remember probably a couple of years ago now, um, as I really started to anchor in the learning, the healing, and the growth that I was having, I actually said it out loud to someone. I don't remember who, and maybe it was to myself, and I probably journaled about it, but I'm like, am I devoid of emotion all of a sudden? I I know I can love. I know, I mean, I feel these things, but it was in a very different way than anything I was used to. And so it actually felt almost like I was emotionless. And I'm far from emotionless. And, the devoid of emotion kept coming up. And I'm like, okay, so something is different. And I've thought about that consistently since then. And just was it this week or late last week, Kelsey, when we were having a conversation and you brought this up again and, related to a specific scenario, all of a sudden in our conversation, it came through that, of course, when we shift into a transformative state of being, and we're awakened to our conscious self, our emotions are going to be different. They're going to come through calmer, more peaceful, more joyful, more loving, more connected, more oneness, more contentment, instead of the chaotic, disease to please, fear based, scarcity emotions that were driving us in the past. And I was like, holy shit, no wonder all of that shifted for me, because I used to seek love by doing, 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 doing. That was my fawner, the stress response, the fawn, the disease to please. I wasn't seeking love like that anymore. I was finding love inside of my own self, a very different experience. So the emotions are going to be different. And I remember I'm like, Kelsey, this just came through. What do you think? Because
And then
we're going to be
I
different.
think I said, "Oh my God. Well, duh. Why would we I said, "Why would I possibly think that if I grow as a person, my emotions will be the same. I'll use the same type of emotions all the time. But the emotions that come up and the feelings I have will all be the same." What kind of craziness is that? If I'm growing as a person and I grow, Of
Yeah.
course, the emotions that I have and the feelings I have, they're going to be different. There's nothing wrong with me,
Right.
right?
Right.
In fact, it would be wrong if you grew as a person, but the feelings that you had stayed exactly the same.
Absolutely. And you continue to feed them that way. And
Right.
that's the thing that came up. I mentioned this to a friend and she said, well, yeah, of course. I'm like, no, 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 no. You might not be getting what I'm saying. I mean, yes, of course. But when you continue to feed the old emotions because you're not familiar with the new ones, it's the reverting back. Like it's the, and so we could get sucked back in because it is easy to get back into subconscious habitual action. It's easy to let that take control again. And so we could try and feed that because all of a sudden, you could have been like, this is weird. I don't have any emotion. Let me go get some emotion somewhere and feed it. Right.
Yeah, normally I would have been, if this person was talking to me and they were having trouble and I was like somewhat kind of roped into it, right? Like as if things that I did then also affected them. But I could tell from where it was happening that it wasn't mine. I wasn't taking it personally, right? I was involved, but it wasn't, I
Yeah.
didn't, I didn't cause any of that, right? Like,
Right.
but so I felt empathy for them that they were going through a hard time trying to organize it. But then I didn't have the emotions that I would have had, which was this idea of like immediately going to blame myself, right? Immediately picking through every interaction I've had with them to see if there was an ounce or of something that said it was my fault. Finding something that I could change to help this other person. Instead, I didn't. Of course, I'm not perfect. I'm sure there were some things I just wanted to make sure I heard everything they said now and connect with how I was feeling about it. And then make sure I
Mhm.
really listened to them because I wanted to make sure I could be there for them the next time. It was
Yeah.
just the weirdest, different feelings that I hadn't had. And of course those should change
Right.
because I've grown as a person.
Right. And it's funny. Even as of last night, I was having a conversation with someone and realizing that I process things differently now. My fawner would have processed them by running circles around them and making things up in my world and like saying all the things. And now I literally process differently. And it kind of goes to what Carl just said, that once you figure out you actually have all the time in the world, that's, half the problem you can solve things. So processing things differently now than
Right.
what I used to do allows me the space to move through what's happening. And inside of that is also calm, peace, connection, and the emotions are different inside of that. And I've become very introspective. And in fact, I have found I need more time to myself because I don't know if I'm making up for lost time and because I spent so much time not with myself, but yeah, it is a it's an imperative to be comfortable exactly where you are,
Yes.
knowing that you've grown, right?
Yeah,
Knowing that you've grown.
absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah.
Gosh, it's really cool. I think there's another way that we can communicate and talk about this idea of these emotions changing
Me
because
too.
it really hit me as an aha moment, and I really want to share that with more people because um, some are there, some are past it, some are not there. Those that are not there, when they get there, I want them to know that it's like reasonable that those emotions would change. And I don't know if it affects everyone. Maybe some people are like, oh yeah, I'm just calmer now, this is great, and then they don't think about it anymore. But like, I am hyper aware of that kind of stuff.
Right.
um
Right.
and and so I just don't want anyone, because I was like kind of like, whoa, am I, because I that used to be my fallback of pulling back. I mean, one of the reasons why I became a musician is because I had to stuff my emotions down so far for so long.
Right.
And I thought that maybe the fountain would run out, but it doesn't. My fountain
Right.
doesn't run out. My
Right.
fountain runneth over. It just
Yes.
keeps going. So, um, this idea of if anyone out there is like us, where they're like really conscientious about their emotions and that happens, it made me go, oh no, did I go back to shoving my emotions down? And I was like,
Yeah.
it's like checking in with myself, and I'm like, no, I'm feeling okay. I feel some emotion. I feel empathy. And I was thinking of happy and sad thoughts just a little bit, just to make sure. And I was like, oh yeah, no, we're good. So it's
Right.
not me shutting down.
Right. Yeah, it's funny because when it first came up, I was like, yeah, when I go out with my girlfriends, am I happy and laughing and having fun? Yeah, okay, I'm doing that. That's all there,
And it feels happy, right? It's not a
right.
fake happy. You're like, no,
Yeah,
no, like just yesterday,
authentically happy.
I was authentic. Yeah, like things, nothing broke. There's no wrench in the system. This
Right.
is just a new set of I don't know, a new piece of machinery in your brain. And
Yeah.
so if anyone out there has a lot of uh, is very tied in with their emotions and very empathetic, when you keep growing and keep changing, your emotions will absolutely change. It's a hands
Yeah.
down, and it makes sense. It
It
makes
does.
sense. But
Totally does.
it's really hard to explain. It's so hard for me to explain. You'll know it when you know it, when it's like, whoa,
Uh-huh.
and you'll just know.
Exactly. Exactly. I actually remember asking someone, do I seem like I don't have any emotions lately? I
You
remember.
and you and I talked, and it's like but I couldn't even understand what you were talking about until I got there, and now I'm like,
Yeah, isn't
oh,
that
I
interesting?
didn't
Yeah.
understand it. I mean, I was like, okay, like wasn't until I got there. That's why I think there's a way that we can communicate this better. Um,
Yep.
yeah, but I don't know what it is. So anyway,
Well, and yeah, well, maybe let's really see what kind of an episode we can create around emotions. Um,
yeah. I love it, Mary. And this is the perfect, we were talking to someone about, hey, every Friday you can set aside time for yourself and join us, right? And there's
yeah,
going to be some Fridays where maybe you don't want to join us. Maybe you listen to the first 10 minutes and you're like, I got to spend some other time on myself. Just my voice, right? Just know that we're here on Fridays, and make sure you dedicate time to yourself. So that's kind of what we're doing, right? We're here for you guys, have
yeah,
topics. We really just want everyone to make sure they spend time on yourself. That's like the best
absolutely.
gift that you
It
could
is.
give yourself.
It is. And to schedule it, to put it in your calendar,
Yes.
if that's how you do your day, and honor that time and that space. It's so important. So important. So
Yes.
it's how you remember that you can come first.
Yes. Well, hey, this was an awesome conversation.
It really was conversation between friends. That's what, I'm just, yeah, I'm really happy that, well, one, I'm really happy that you're my friend and my soul sister, and that we've started doing this back in 27 episodes ago. It's just,
27 weeks, and Carl just found us, and you just saw me at Willie Street Fair in Madison, Wisconsin, which was awesome. Yeah, really grateful. And we're going to keep doing this. I will be on the road for next Friday, so we might have to pre-record
we're
next
going to
week.
have to, I forgot I scheduled my flight back
Oh
down to
yeah, we'll
Texas
just yeah.
during that time. So yeah,
Yeah.
we'll
Yeah.
record.
So yeah, next Thursday I'm opening for Pat Benatar in
Yeah.
Ohio, which is super exciting. And Joe's
Oh,
coming,
excited.
which I'm so excited. I mean, maybe we'll do we'll record it together, sitting side by side.
Oh, that would be fun.
And then I'm in St. Louis. But yeah, so big stuff is happening, and I'm gonna report back to this group. I really guarantee things are moving along the more that I work on myself, and the more I believe and trust and love myself. I swear doors open. Doors open. And I
Mm,
do think the doors are always opening, but you cannot see them with blinders on. You cannot see
that's right.
them. You
Mm-mm.
won't even think that they could open, so you won't even turn your head to see that it opened.
That's
So
right.
keep spending that time on yourself. It is so worth it. And we're here every Friday to
Yeah,
give
we
you that
sure
time.
are. We sure are. And Carl, thank you for the feedback. We're glad that you randomly hooked up with
Yes,
us
so
based on
happy.
following Kelsey on her YouTube channel. That's beautiful. And Mary Beth, always thank you for being here. I
Yes.
don't know who else is out there, but
We don't know who's on
even
Facebook,
if,
but maybe Steve and Michael are out there on Facebook. What's up?
yep, we've got Angela, Lisa, Carrie, Kim, who knows? But I think Charlotte was here with us earlier. I
Yes,
don't know.
Charlotte was here as well.
Yeah,
Yes.
Christine. So we love this community, and we really,
Yeah,
really,
Christine
really
comes in too.
appreciate
Yep, 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 yep.
it.
And yeah, awesome. Thank you so much, everyone. Oh, and Aton. Aton comes a lot as well.
Yeah, Eitan, I love it. And so Kelsey, thank you for the conversation. Thank you for
Thank
shifting
you.
so purely, it's really special.
Soul sister,
Yeah.
I I hope that I have you, right? As in I've got your back or I've got, right? I support you as much as you have supported me. So thank you.
Absolutely. Always.
Yeah.
Always. I feel it deep.
All right. We love you all.
Love you guys. Love and light to everyone.